Let's chit chat about the specifications. So this is the Arc S, a cheaper model. It comes with the Rockchip 3566. It is actually in quad-core 64-bit, Cortex A55, have a main frequency of 1.8 GHz. The GPU is a Mali G52 MP2, 1GB of LPDDR4, a 4-inch IPS display with a resolution of 640 by 480 and 3500 mAh battery that gives us around 6 hours of game time. So holding this thing in my hand, it comes with a very nice weight to it. Not to the point that it's going to be way too heavy, but it does have like a very nice feel, because it has like a quality feel when it comes to, it's not a lightweight, like Chinese junk that we have seen before, but also when it comes to, let's say, the form factor of the device, it's absolutely comfortable, and I just really love it. I've been playing with this thing for quite a long time now, and I can tell you, I was really surprised by it, how comfortable it was. The shell itself, already mentioned before, I'm getting some old school Sega vibe with this, and this is in a very positive way, but let's do a quick overview of the device itself. At the bottom we're finding the two SD cards. It's the same configuration with, let's say, the less like the 10 models or something like that, and of course an headphone jack out. On top we're finding two Type-C connections, an HDMI mini, and then we're having even the reset button, volume control, and the on and off switch over here. But I'm very glad that they implemented a physical volume button, because this was not the case with some of the models with some devices. And then of course the mini HDMI. There is no cable for this in the box itself, so you can use a converter from a mini HDMI or you can get yourself a cable. But let's test out this function. So when you're looking at the button layout, this thing is absolutely perfect. So we're having the 6 button layout over here, we're even having the floating D-pad. Select the start over here at the sides of the screens at the top, and we're having two front facing speakers. But coming in with a weight of 256 grams, this thing has absolutely the nice sweet spot when it comes to the weight itself. And in this way we can just play some old school games. And combining this with some bezels, this looks absolutely great, I can tell you that. Volume can also be adjusted throughout, let's say, the device itself. And you can just bring this thing with you, plugging into a television, have a lot of fun. The downside to this configuration is actually, so if you want to just plug it out and you just want to continue playing portable, yeah, this system is not great for this, because you need to shut it down before you even go to do this. So what you need to do with some device, it automatically shuts down through the device itself, but you need to fully shut down the system itself, unplug the cable, and then boot up the system again. Maybe they can fix it with a software in the future. Depending on the emulator, I must say that some of the emulators don't go really loud, but the overall quality of the speakers is absolutely great. So this is one of those old school classic D-pads that I have seen on some, let's say, fake Sega controllers too, and of course the original one. And what I do find is absolutely amazing, that it comes even with a very nice curve, a very nice, let's say, grip and overall, so it's very comfortable to play. So when it comes to, let's say, the way you need to play, it's absolutely something you need to get used to. But when you're already playing with this for some time, when it comes to original Sega controllers, this thing is absolutely responsive and very comfortable to play. So when looking at the buttons, and they are absolutely great and absolutely very comfortable. So first of all, when you're looking at the A, B, C buttons, so you can see there are a lot of already different, let's say, heights between them. That makes them absolutely like very comfortable. And also when it comes to the way the quality is, so you do have a little bit of a wiggle, and that is needed for the room between the shell itself and the button. But you do have a slightly, let's say, an okay travel. But when you're looking at the device itself, this is absolutely great. This just looks amazing, but also feels, this is not a flat surface that we have seen many times before. And when you're actually going to be holding it, you can put your middle fingers underneath it and give this thing some extra comfortable, let's say, way to play. But let's talk about something else. The shoulder buttons. That is something we almost forgot, or I did. So over here we have a very interesting, but a little bit of a disappointing configuration, maybe for some of you. So first of all, we're having two different buttons. Here you can see like this thing is a little bit longer, and that's great because it makes it more comfortable to hold. But also both of them are just normal membrane buttons and not the trigger buttons. The first one looks kind of basic, but I just really love it. So in here we're finding the different kind of, say, applications and options. Favorites, read in RetroArch, emulators, apps, and recent list. So pressing this you can check out all the recent games that you have played. So, but what I think is pretty damn interesting is, and also maybe kind of annoying, is that when you're looking at the emulators and RetroArch, we have two huge lists with different kind of emulators. The biggest one is the RetroArch, and over here we're finding the emulators, and here we're finding different emulators. So in the beginning I already mentioned of the top buttons over here with the on off switch and the volume. I said it was a reset button, but I should have said better like it's the menu button, or yeah, it's actually resetting the game system of course, or the game they're actually playing. By pressing this button it will bring you to the menu depending on what kind of emulator you're having. But in here we're going to have the option to go back to the main menu and even making quick load, quick save. The only weird thing is with some of the emulators, we have an extra menu we need to get out of. This doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. But when exiting the game with the emulators, here we do have a different kind of emulator, like say every single time. So we need to have a different kind of way to exit the game. Take the note that it's going to be in combination most of the time with the F button, with start or something else. But that's something you need to check out in the manual itself. And I'm very glad that they implemented a manual with the freaking package itself. Oh yeah, so there was only one downside to configuration without any joysticks. Is because, yeah, we're going to need it. And I mean particularly when you want to play in a certain comfortable way. And you can actually play some GoldenEye on this device with this button configuration. But it is not really recommended. Because you're going to have like the D-pad for moving around, for example, in combination with a couple of buttons. The emulation performance is absolutely horrendous on these things. There are a couple of games that can be played, but you will see a lot of glitches going on over here. And you can see also a lot of stuttering going on. It's still playable. You can just see that I need to navigate with the buttons at the side and the D-pad. Okay, so when it comes to emulation performance, Sega Naomi runs pretty good on this. Of course, depending on what kind of game you're actually going to be playing, two-dimensional games are not that demanding, of course, compared with, let's say, the 3D games. But it's absolutely just great to see where we're coming from when it comes to these devices. But another system I just love to check out is some PlayStation Portable. And here we will find an overall mixed performance. Take note, it's going to be an original resolution with no frame skip enabled. But performance itself is so much improved compared with all the other handsets we've checked out here on the channel. You can just see that the stutters and the dips down, so we can implement frame skip for a slightly overall better experience. But PlayStation Portable will always be one of those systems with its cheaper chips. It may not have like 100% perfect like overall gameplay experience. But it also depends on what kind of game you actually go to be playing. Two-dimensional games are less demanding. Think about Darius Boost, one of those games I love to test out to play on PlayStation Portable. Another system that will be playing very nice on this is going to be the PlayStation 1. So one of the things I just enjoy in this is just playing these old school games, and the D-pad is just absolutely great for this. Let's check out if they have mapped everything like it should be. Yep, there we go. And also the form factor of the device itself makes it a very comfortable play. Now this is actually one of those games that you're needing the shoulder buttons a lot for switching out between games. If you need to shoot, the D-pad, or the floating D-pad in this case, is very comfortable. If you need to make like a U-turn, as they call it. Okay, so next up let's try some GBA. And I can tell you, when you're well to play some Game Boy Advance on this, it's going to be absolutely the perfect experience. Because these devices now can play all kinds of old school stuff. Think about 8-bit, 16-bit handhelds. Without any problem you can just play them. So that's absolutely great. They also implemented a bezel with this particular one, with the Game Boy Advance. I think it's not the prettiest one, but yeah, I'm just going to be leaving it there. We can also change it out if you want to. Already showing you when pressing only F button, getting into RetroArch. And if you want to reset or go back to the main menu, pressing start and the F button will reset the game and will bring you back to the main menu itself. But do you really need to buy an expensive device like this for some old school 16-bit? No, not really. There are so many different devices out there that can actually play the same thing. I was just switching my buttons as I'm making this video. But the question remains, like, what can you actually buy more? That is, of course, I did some separate videos about, let's say, like Game Boy lookalike devices that can just play these games without any problem, and they also look amazing with beautiful IPS panels. With this overflow of devices, there are many different devices that can actually play this. Of course, the D-pad and the way how it is configured, yeah, that works perfect for this too. It's an absolutely great addition.